All right, so now that we built the initial portion of the controller, we built some models such as the DTO, which are the data transfer objects, and we built some entities and created the tables using those entities. It is now time to create the repositories. Repositories are classes or components that encapsulates the logic required to access data sources. So in this case, it's data from our Postgres database. So we created the entities, we created the tables. Now it's time to access that data source to be able to save, update, delete, retrieve, pretty much the CRUD ability of an API, right? We want to be able to do that, and the repository is going to allow us to do that, but we have to set it up. So to communicate with the database, we'll be leveraging Spring JPA repository, and it's going to allow us to communicate with our database with predefined methods, meaning we don't have to write SQL statements if we don't want to, right? We'll be able to use a simple method like find by user ID and passing the user ID to find a transaction based on a user ID. So find by user ID method under the hood looks like select T from transaction T, where t.userid is equal to that specific user ID that is passed through the parameter. So it's going to take this method and it's going to, under the hood, create this SQL statement for us instead of us having to actually utilize this SQL statement ourselves. Now, you do have the option to write raw SQL statements if you want to, but with Spring JPA repository, we'll be able to use predefined methods based on the properties in the entity to essentially create these statements under the hood by using the predefined methods. And to establish that connection using Spring JPA, all we got to do is specify the entity, which in this case transactions, because remember we made an entity for transactions, and specify the type of the primary key used in that entity. So in this case, it's going to be of type long, because remember we made an ID as the primary key and is of type long. And then from there, we can establish that connection once we create an interface using JPA repository and specifying the entity and the type of the primary key. We establish a connection with our database, and now we can use the usual CRUD operations such as create, retrieve, update, and delete, and other things such as methods for pagination and sorting and all other types of interactions that we want with our database. So all it takes is defining the JPA repository by creating an interface and extending the JPA repository. And like I said, it only needs the entity and the data type of the ID or the primary key associated to the entity. And here's just a small example of some of the useful JPA repository methods that you can utilize. So there's save, there's find by ID, or really find by using any of the properties that are in the entity itself. So you could do find by ID, you could do find by user ID, you can do find by amount. You could just utilize the initial portion of it of find by and then specify the property that you want to find and specify the data type of that specific property as well as the name as a parameter. And it would attempt to query that entity based on the property that you define. There's deletes, there's delete all, save all, count, and there's so many more. You just kind of have to check out the JPA repository documentation for just a list of a whole bunch of options for the JPA repository methods. You can even use things like less than, greater than, so many options. And here are some examples of custom JPA repository methods. So you can do find by email address and last name. You can do find by name starting with. You can do find by amount less than and from account ID. Find by transaction type, and you can specify the transaction type string. So whether it's deposit or whether it's withdraw. You can do find by amount between and specify the starting point and the ending point. So you can use all these custom methods to interact with your database without having to write the query. So that's the power of custom JPA repository or just JPA repositories in general. And this is what we're going to be leveraging to communicate with our database moving forward. All right, so now it's time to create the repository. So what we're going to need to do is right click on the repository folder, go ahead and put new Kotlin class/file. And we're going to start off with the transaction. And it's going to be capital T, then the rest lowercase, so it's transaction repository. And we're going to make sure that it's an interface. It's not a class, it's an interface. So I'll select that. And the first thing that you need to do, Springboot loves annotations. And the annotation that we're going to use in this case is going to be at repository. Now, the at repository annotation is just utilized to indicate that this will be used as the repository. This will be used to interact with the database to access or manipulate data. So this is why it's important. And then from there, you can go ahead and we can extend from the JPA repository because like I discussed before, the JPA repository is going to come with a lot of predefined methods that's going to make it easy for us to interact with our database based on the entity that we specify. So if I put a colon here and I put JPA repository and I import that, is coming from the JPA.repository portion of the JPA data, then I can go ahead and open up and specify the specific entity that I will be creating this repository for and that I will be able to communicate with utilizing the JPA repository method. So in this case, I want to communicate with transactions because that's the entity that we created before. And you can see I'm going to import it from the entity folder, right? And I got to specify as the second param the ID, right? The type of the ID, right? What type is the primary key for this specific entity? And in this case, it's going to be a long, right? Because the ID we created for transaction is of type long. And that's all we need to establish that connection between our application and the database using JPA repository. And if you're a little bit curious on what is the internal workings of JPA repository, you can go ahead and go into the definition. So I'll go in really quick and show that there are some methods that you can already see, right? So you can see that there's some delete methods in here. There's some save and flush, save all and flush. And then you can see that it's also extending even more repositories, right? So there's the list CRUD repository, there's the list paging and sorting repository. So all of these are methods and it's extending other repositories, and that's retrieving those methods to be able to communicate with your database internally. So to show how useful the JPA name queries are, the custom queries that I showed before, let's use an example by creating a function called find by user ID. As the name implies, it will create a query that will retrieve all the transactions based on the user ID provided. So if we want to search against multiple parameters, then you can start to stack on properties, but let's start off with the basic one. So find or function find by user ID, and the format is usually find by and then the property um, name with the capital of the starting point of each individual word. So since it's user ID, then it's going to be capital U, capital I. And if I go back into the transaction entity, it's simply just extracting the property or utilizing the property that we define in the entity itself. So in this case, it's user ID. So it's capital U, like I said, and capital I. And if you wanted to use like amount or anything like that, then it would just be capital A, right? Because there's only one word. But since user ID is two words, then it's capital U, then capital I. So that's the convention or the naming convention for that. And then all you got to do is open up and provide, what exactly is the parameters that you're going to use to find that specific user ID. And it's going to be the user ID and what type is that parameter? Well, it's going to be a type long. And I can also specify what I expect to be returned from this query, which in this case is going to be a list of transactions, right? And there and transaction. And it could be empty, so I'll make that nullable, but it's going to be a list of transactions if the user ID is associated to any transactions. Now, you're not just restricted to just using these named methods. You could use raw queries if you want to. So let me just show an example of how you can utilize a query. So let me just start off with the simple uh, function, right? So find by user ID query, right? And the parameter that I expect to be passed is the user ID, and it's going to be a type long. But right above it, we can import an annotation of at query. Make sure to import that. Open up some parentheses, and the first parameter that is going to need is the value, right? The value is going to hold the statement of that query, right? It's going to hold the query of what you're trying to do. So in this case, it's going to be a select all in this case, right? So use asterisk. Now, the good convention is specifying the specific columns that you actually need and not just grabbing everything. But for this example, I'll just be grabbing everything, and I'm going to be grabbing it from transaction, and I'm going to give it uh, a holder of type T, or it's going to be T. So in this case, it's going to be where T, which is in this case a transaction, right? User ID, which is the property in the or the column in transaction. So instead of having to write transaction, I could just use T dot user ID, and as long as it's equal to the parameter that we pass, so the first parameter, which in this case is user ID, is going to inject as a first parameter user ID. What this is going to do is it's going to select and retrieve all the rows and all the columns from transaction where the user ID is equal to the user ID that the user passed, right? Or whatever user ID that's is in the JWT token will retrieve all the transactions associated to it. So this is how you can write your own query. And to finish it off, what we're gonna have to do is specify a second parameter called native query, and we're gonna have to set that equal to true. If you have any complex queries, you can use the query annotation and write the query inside like I just did. And to ensure that your SQL syntax is correct while using the query annotation, you can set the native query to be equal to true. So that's exactly what I did. So instead of using named queries or named custom queries, you can go ahead and create actual raw queries if you want to, right? There's the versatility of the JPA repository to allow you to either use the named methods or to just create your own query if you want to. Now, just to show you the power of being able to append on different properties, let me just go ahead and create one called, it's going to be a function, and it's going to be by uh, find by user ID, and if I can spell properly with the right capitalization. So it's going to be find by user ID and transaction type. And I can open up the param and I can specify that it's going to be user ID is going to be of type long, and it's going to be a transaction type for the second param. So now I can find, and if I gotta change this Y to, I can find transactions based on the user ID and the transaction type. So whether I want to grab transactions based on whether a transaction type is deposit, withdraw, send, I can do that pretty easily by using this named query. And I can just specify what I expect to be returned. In this case, it's going to be a list of transaction. Right? It could be empty, so I'll make that nullable. But this makes it a lot more easy than writing a specific, complex query. I can just go ahead and use these methods and stack on specific properties that I want to search the transaction table by, right? So that's the power of the repository or the JPA repository. Now, I am going to utilize these two. So I'll leave these two, but I'll comment out the query. All right, so the second repository I'm going to create is the user repository. It really doesn't require too much setup, so it should be really quick. So user repository is going to be an interface. And here, we got to make sure to add the repository annotation just to inform that this is going to be communicating with the database based on the entity that we specify. And to do that, we got to extend the JPA repository and specify the entity that we're going to communicate with, which in this case is going to be user, and the primary key is of type long. Now, in this case, I don't have to, create, and let me import this really quick, actually. Now, for this user repository, I don't have to create any custom methods at this time because of the fact that the main one that I'm going to need is find by ID, which the JPA repository already provides automatically because, the ID is the primary key of user and it already comes in JPA repository. I don't really need to create it. So I can move on to the next repository, which is going to be the account repository. So new, call it class, interface, account repository. And let me go ahead and use the annotation again, repository. And then we go ahead and extend from the JPA repository. And I'm going to specify the account as the entity, and it is of type long for the primary key. And what I'm going to need here, remember we have that connection or that relationship between user and account. So I want to be able to find an account based on the user ID, and I can do that pretty easily by using a named method. And I'm going to do fun for function find by user ID, and it's going to be user ID as the param long, and it's going to be expecting a return of a list of accounts. Right? It's going to be nullable because there may be a case, and it's going to be a rare case where there are no accounts associated to a user. So, but I expect that the user has an option to create more than one account. So, and it might be associated to a single user. Uh, so that's why it's a list, right? The user can have multiple accounts. We created that one-to-many relationship already. So now we have a transaction repository with some useful methods. We have a user repository and a account repository. So now we will have the ability to communicate with our tables by utilizing some of the features that Spring JPA provides. And like I said, if you wanted to add any more complex queries, then you can use the query annotation. That's an option. Or you can just utilize the ability to create custom queries by using the named methods. It's up to you. Or you can utilize the methods that already come out of the box with the JPA repository. Because if you go inside under the hood, you can see that there's a lot of methods, like say for instance, get by ID, which is when it's deprecated, but there are other methods that you can utilize to communicate with your database without even having to create some custom method ones to communicate with your database. So you have a list of options to communicate back and forth between your application and your data source. Now let's actually move on to the service portion to start establishing the logic between the controller and our data source.